Hi, good morning, and thank you for joining us for the third installment today of the Homes and Money Realtor Mastermind. This has been a great turnout so far, and I appreciate all of you that have started to attend and follow. This morning, we have a very special guest. We have Herr with Private Real Estate Collection. That is a new company that she has launched, and Heather mentioned that she has grown up in Cincinnati and moved away for a short period of time to Atlanta, but then came back to Cincinnati when she launched her real estate career. So I appreciate Heather being with us, and thank you. And we'll look forward to what you have to share with us today. Heather, you mentioned that you were a swimmer in college and you had actually moved to Atlanta for a while, and were there during the Olympics. You weren't on the Olympic team, but you did kind of help work with them a little bit. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I just missed the Olympic team that year and I retired. So I was a synchronized swimmer at Ohio State. And rather than graduate, I stayed one extra year to swim because I had the ability to do that. And then I decided to help out. So I went down and I lived there during the Olympics for about 6 months or so. And I loved it. I wanted to work in Atlanta. I did get a job offer in Atlanta. But then I decided to come back to Cincinnati, and that was kind of how I started my first career. But it was really
Nice,
good experience.
nice. So then, how did you get started in real estate?
So I came back to Cincinnati. I got a teaching job. I taught high school, and I have a master's degree in art education. So I thought, I love art. I love marketing. I'm going to teach for a while. And then I transitioned into another career in software. So I worked for a software company called Siebel Systems for a while, doing educational software and traveling the world. And I also, I learned a lot about software during that time, but I really did miss the art background that I had. So I had a family, and my husband and I have 3 girls. So while I was pregnant with our first daughter, I kind of missed working and doing some things. So he recommended that I get my real estate license. And I didn't at the time understand why, but I thought, why not? I'm just going to do it. Maybe I can work and be a mom. So I got my license, and my daughter was born, and I would just basically talk to people in the neighborhood and look at the beautiful architecture. And a little bit of background on that, I live in a neighborhood that the homes are about 100 years old, a lot of them, or most of them. So my passion for art history and architecture was really there at the time, and I would want to tour people's homes and look at them and write about them and talk about them. So,
Nice.
so it kind of started slowly, and I took my time, and that was 18 years ago that I got my
Wow.
license.
Wow. And so, have you been with the same brokerage your entire career?
No, I have not. So in the last 18 years, I have been with 3. Now I'm with my third, but the first brokerage that I was with, was Comey and Shepherd. And I was in the city office of the company downtown, but I knew everybody in the company. And I was the top agent at that office, when I decided to make a change. It was right around the time that my business was hitting about 15 million a year. And I really wanted to grow a team. So I needed a little bit of help with that. So Coldwell Banker had come to me and said, we can help you build a team. And I thought, well, that sounds great because I do need a little help. So I went over with them, Coldwell Banker in the Hyde Park office, which was amazing. And I was there about 4.5 years. They really did a great job in kind of getting me started on that process. And when I got to about 80 million a year, and I just couldn't get past that, I really wanted to surround myself with people that were doing like 300 million. And I didn't think that was possible in Ohio, which I'm not sure that it is. So I did a little research and found myself with a partner called Side. I'm the founding partner of my company here in Ohio and Kentucky, but they are my broker essentially, is
Okay.
Side.
Okay. And
Yeah.
and how long into your career was that you decided to start building a team?
Well, I started building my team about 4.5 years ago when I came over
Okay.
to Coldwell. So originally it started out when I was at Comey, I needed a buyer's agent. I felt like I couldn't be marketing homes, writing about homes, and also showing homes at the same time. I know we had talked about that in past weeks. So I brought in a girl that was more part-time, and that's Katie McCarty, who's on my team. And she was great. I met her actually at our kids' grade school, and she was great. And we became friends, and she was out there all the time with her, with her clients. And then I brought in a transaction coordinator who was also more of a part-time at the time. And that kind of allowed me to like finish the process from beginning to end versus me sitting up all night trying to do everything, that in the
Sure.
process that a
Sure.
lot of agents do.
So how did you know you were ready for that? Like what was the prompting that, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to build a team.
I think what happened was that I knew I couldn't expand past my growth of like 15 million a year. So I had to bring in other people to help with that, so that I could go out and be the rainmaker of the company.
Sure.
Um, and with that being said, like, you know, how do you go out and talk to people and market yourself and feel great if you're exhausted from doing paperwork all night and that kind of stuff? So I think at that point is when I kind of really realized that.
Sure. So it seems like, and we had a previous guest mention this as well, kind of the first key person is the transaction coordinator, the person
Yeah,
that can
that
help.
was the first meeting that I remember we were on, and I heard Scott talking about that. And I thought that was really good advice because you can't really get outside of your process if you're constantly doing paperwork, and you can't really help your teammates or yourself grow if you're constantly behind the computer all day long. So,
Sure. Sure. And then where did you get the guidance on how to start your team? What was, kind of the
um,
places that you searched?
I think like just started going online and reading about it on YouTube and following some big influencers. And then I went to Caldwell and they had a lot of teams there. So it was nice to be around groups that were doing excelling in that marketplace. So just kind of watching and learning through that collaboration. And also during that time, I really realized the importance of becoming a brand and how to like really, that's the most important aspect, of creating a team is becoming a brand within a brokerage. So
Right. Right. And so that kind of just is a perfect tee up into the next question. And that is, you recently started your own company, which is not a brokerage.
yeah.
What kind of prompted you to do this? And what's your vision for private collection?
So I have my glasses on. I apologize. I'm like reading my notes because I wanted to take a couple notes yesterday.
Sure.
Um, but I think this is important because I did want to read this. I really thought there was a gap in the marketplace between where agents that wanted to grow and the support that a brokerage could provide. And I'm not saying that any of the brokerages that I worked for were ever lacking in support, to be honest with you. There were great foundations to start with, but the broker likes to be part of the brand. And I felt like there was a gap in between the agent and the team being the brand and the brokerage taking over that a little bit. Um, I shared a lot of great times with the brokerages that I was with. They're like my family and they still are. But I felt like the company that I partnered with, was allowing agents to really stand out on their own within that type of marketplace, and especially in a changing marketplace right now, like we have. So,
And then I'm just curious, where did you get the name from? What kind of prompted the name, the private real estate collection?
so one of the things that I loved about this company is that they didn't really want to they didn't want the team or the brand to take on the name. So, for example, I left my company name the same, Team Her, because I knew people recognized us in the industry. Um, but in order to market legally in Ohio with the MLS, you have to have a doing business name. So private real estate collection came out from us having to have a business name,
Okay.
essentially. And Side really kind of finds itself under that umbrella at this point. They don't ask us to use their name.
Sure.
And a couple other notes here I wanted to write too, that, one of the things I didn't talk about before is that I wanted to be around other growth-minded teams that wanted to be at the top of their game. So like doing 3 to 7 times their business. And I think that part of being a top producer is knowing how to run a team that way so that they can help each other get to that point.
Sure. And you mentioned to me and some correspondence we had this week that your goal is to kind of help, was it 100 teams in 40 different markets?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. One of
that's
my goals
fantastic.
is to expand the model that we have across 40 states, and have 100 different teams under the umbrella, not competing against each other, but supporting each other to do exactly what we're doing here right now.
Wow, that's awesome. And then, so do you have a specific niche that you have kind of worked in throughout your career, and has that changed?
So I do think, well, this kind of goes back to, because I remember Scott talking about this the first time, but I do think having a niche is key. And I think when you first start, you're all over the place in the business because you have to take the business. But I actually feel like I started out with a niche and kind of stuck with that. My niche at the time when I first started was to really be a neighborhood agent in my neighborhood. But I'd say at this point, my niche is a 5-mile radius from downtown. So downtown, north of the river, like over in Kentucky, even northern Kentucky through even Union, but that's more on part of my team. Clifton, East Walnut Hills, North Avondale, the areas kind of surrounding that, they kind of, go out a little bit here and there, Hyde Park, Oakley, Mount Lookout, Columbia, Tusculum. I like to say I'd call that like urban suburban core. But that's really where I spend most of the time with my family and I live there. So I think that I would say that's my niche. Yeah.
And that kind of, I mean, that my next question for you is that you're a high transaction volume agent. And I think some of that, with what you just said with the urban market kind of lends to that, in that you're going to have some smaller loan sizes when you're working in a more urban setting.
Right.
So how do you delegate the responsibility with your team and close so many transactions?
So, and going back to that with the price points, I do agree with that. Like I tell people I sell anywhere from a $50,000 condo to a $3 to $4 million house. And I have sold the most expensive houses in all of those neighborhoods, like in historical, for the most part, most of those, I would say. So I treat every single person and every single price point exactly the same. Because a lot of times you could have the $3 million client that wants to downsize to the $50,000 condo and hold on to it. So
Sure.
anyway, but to go back to the question of how do I, with a high, volume, do that? We have a very distinct plan, I guess you could say, process of how we do our business. So after we have this call today, my team is actually in the room. We're going to talk about the process of our listings. We go through step by step and everybody has a defined role. So there's never confusion. So that allows the agent to go from deal to deal and the team to be able to support on the back end constantly through the process.
And I'm sure with you being the rainmaker, I'm going to kind of elaborate on one of these questions. With you being the rainmaker and now having a large team, do you have specialists within different price points and even different like areas of the market that you've kind of built?
So you mean like agents or teammates?
Yeah, within your teammates, like with your
Yeah.
your buyer's agents and different people on your team. Do you have them, like if you get a client that's a $50,000 condo, do you have certain people that are really qualified to do that versus say a $3 million listing?
Yeah, there's only 3 to 4 of us that are licensed agents this time. I mean, a lot of our staff is licensed, but I think it just depends on the client, and I try to match up the client with the agent that fits best. So it really isn't price, it's more person, I guess, if I would say that correctly.
Sure.
Because I feel like they can close the deal quicker, and also, and not that we're just looking at it like a transaction, but if I know somebody does a certain area, the better, better, they can find that person a house quicker, and that's essentially better in the end. So
Right. Yeah, that's good.
yeah.
That's good. So, what is your biggest piece of advice for your fellow top producers and agents on succeeding in this market?
So I was thinking about this last night. There's a lot of different points, but for me, what I've been telling our team and what we talk about a lot is that number one, you need a really strong CRM. And I think a lot of brokerages provide a CRM that is pretty vanilla, but it's a good start. So having everybody in there and really knowing who that database is and using that database to market is huge. And that goes back to data mine the current client base and also, asking for business through the sphere that you have. So that's important. That's one of the most important things. And I'm going to be teaching it today too in our meetings a little bit more. I would say going back to core communities, like really looking where you live and who you serve and what communities that you find the most success. Strengthening your social media and relevant content, educating the community. And that includes like being the mayor of your neighborhood too. I say it's kind of a joke, but every time we have an event, I tell my husband, like, I got to go out and be the mayor. I got to go see everybody's dogs and kids and everything. So it's fun. It's fun. It's not a good time to cut marketing. I know a lot of people are like, I got to cut marketing, but I would say like, this is the most important time to actually ramp up your marketing and spend more time and money doing that, because people that are being seen are going to get more business, and people are on social media all the time and out on digital marketing and websites and that, so on and so forth.
And
And then,
and really kind of what you said, with telling your brand story, in all of the different avenues. I liked what Scott said on the first call that we had, in that the cheapest lead that we have is the lead that's in our database already.
right,
And we're so focused on realtor.com leads or Zillow leads or all of these different things. But if we're truly mining our database, those are the most cost effective leads that we have.
I do
So
train that a lot. Well, we're going to talk about that today, is that going to lunch with a client that you sold a house to 5 years ago is important, because you have to ask for the business at this point, and that's how they remember to stay in touch with you. And I think it got a little easy during COVID, so we kind of have to get back to the basics of really working those former clients that we have, because they're going
sure.
to move on regardless. And you're right, they also have Zillow and other platforms that they can go to that forget you about. So person to person is really important at this point.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Before I open it up to questions, anything else that you would like to add that I didn't ask you?
One other thing I did want to talk about, like that when you said the biggest piece of advice, is that I think teams are the future of the business right now. And so I think if you're an individual agent, I think that that's great. But I think somehow turning your individual group into having support on the back end, even if it's transaction help or operations, is key. So I always say, I like to look at it like a football game. You can't win the game without the whole team intact. So quarterback needs someone to throw the ball to. And I think the future of this business is really team oriented. So
Good.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to open it up for questions, and feel free to ask Heather anything that you want about what we've talked about, or if there's something else that we didn't talk about that you'd like to ask her. I'd like to open that up, and anybody can ask.
Hey, this is Miranda here. My question would be, you said a very important thing to you is keeping in touch with your Sphere, your database, your CRM. How is it that you guys go about doing that?
So when I first started this company, we started with a new CRM. We put everybody in there. We do events all the time, even if it's a small event, like come have a cup of coffee with us at the coffee shop. So for me, it's a lot of that part, as a more macro. Then on a smaller, like more micro level, I would say like reach out individually to people. Like if you have a new listing coming up, I try to pull tags in the neighborhood. Like these are the 20 people I know that live there. I'm going to go see them and talk to them. We do mailings. We do some direct mail, not a ton. But primarily through, I'd say like right at this point, it's been through events and just keeping in touch with people that way.
Cool. So Dee Dee asked, what is your favorite CRM? And she said she loves the idea of ramp up marketing now to stand out. So what is your favorite CRM?
So I currently use a CRM called Follow Up Boss. Have you heard of that before?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think it's really amazing. It's very robust. It can be overwhelming, but it's been really great for us so far. And I'm still learning. But it has many connectors to other things that you work with. Let's say you worked on Zillow, it can connect to that. It connects with other software management systems as well. So
yeah, one of the things that I've kind of learned throughout my career is the best CRM is the one that you'll actually use. And most people don't even get a fraction of what the capabilities of a CRM are for. So
right.
if it's easy for you to use, it's going to be easier for you to implement into your daily habits. So
yeah, I also love there's a really good calendar option on it. And so a lot of times when we meet with a client, we have an appointment. I know people use Teams or Microsoft Outlook, but this actually helps you follow up with the client without you having to do it. And it will send a message from the CRM, which I think is pretty cool. And it's not even your phone number. It could be a different number, just as it looks like you have an assistant doing that. So
sure. Okay. Patrick has a couple of questions. I'm gonna break them down. The first one is, what is your best advice for anyone looking to better their marketing platform?
Well, that's a really good question, because I think marketing has like 8 different hats, to be honest with you. So I think hiring a professional in the marketing area is very important, whether it be a graphic designer, a person that does your social media, or a sales and marketing manager like we have, kind of that oversees everything. But I think coming up with a plan obviously is key, and knowing your social platforms is where to post is another part of it. So we have a calendar that we put together. And also we use some software, management on how we're going to post certain things out to the market. But we do have one person that kind of oversees all of that. And I think that's a great place to start.
Awesome. And so do you have a social media platform or company that you use?
I use a calendar scheduler called Later, but I have my team help me with that, to be
Okay.
honest with you. So, and I
Cool.
could break that down more, but we talk about it weekly. We come up with a plan. We do some of it automated, but most of it I post myself on social media, but we do really think this out long-term, at least a month in advance. So, yeah.
So do you have, and I know, you and I have talked before the call that we both have high schoolers at home, et cetera. We get a lot of help in social media from
Yeah.
our kids, but do you have a plan in place that I'm going to post so many personal things and then I'm going to post a business thing? Is that kind of part of your marketing plan that you go through?
Yeah, we try to. Like, if you look at our Instagram page, there's a lot of pictures of homes or branded content, which we do a really good job at, but I like to pepper in reels and people, because I
Mhm.
think that it really applies better to the public if there's a human being in the picture, or you're just being yourself, you know. I try to get each agent to do that as well, but it's sometimes overwhelming for them and they're afraid to put content out there. But I think you really have to promote yourself as a human being, and other people will eventually, bite on like the fact that they enjoy watching you be yourself too. So it's
Sure.
not just houses. But yeah, I think on our Instagram page, we have like 27,000 followers. I just started a TikTok page that I hired somebody to help me with on a part-time basis. And it's been fun and interesting, and it's really outside my comfort zone, but we're having huge traction on that.
Yeah, if you look at my social media at all, it's way outside my comfort zone. So
It's hard. It's hard for most people.
what percentage of marketing is dedicated to past clients versus new business?
Um, well, like I said, we do a lot of events, so that really caters to our sphere. We also invite clients that have not even purchased homes with us, so that helps a lot too. But I think for me personally, I try to market to the people that we haven't met yet, because I'm trying to get them to want to meet us. And I think that's been effective. I'd say we get 2 to 3 leads a month on Instagram from out of town saying that they want to meet our team. So I think constantly there's different platforms too. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok are all completely different postings.
Mhm.
So we're getting people from all those different areas. So I really find a lot of value in LinkedIn as well. So I think
Awesome.
I think it's a mix. You got to think the people that you get your business from, but you also have to think ahead. And I think the people that we currently have as clients, if we continue to shower them with like events and just following up with them, the more they're going to refer business to, and that's considered new business.
Right,
So
right. So do you have a specific call to action that you try to put in each of your social media posts?
well, yeah, that's a good question. I think it just depends. Like sometimes, and my girl that helps me with it is sitting in the room with me, but we kind of go back and forth, and sometimes it's spontaneous.
Mhm.
We do try to get people to engage with our posts, but sometimes we just want to put fun stuff out there. So it's really a week by week decision. And I think that's how social media should be, because it's more
Mhm.
natural. So I mean, some things are great to follow. Like if you follow like a luxury home magazine or something, it's really pretty pictures all the time, but it doesn't engage people to get involved with the content and to have opinions or comment, and you want people to comment. So we do try to get people to comment, on the
Great,
post. So
great.
yeah.
Anyone else have a question for Heather?
I actually taught a class on social media when I was a co banker, and people made fun of me, but I was like, you have to get on TikTok. This was like 3 years ago. And anybody that got on TikTok 3 years ago could be like super famous if they're really good at it. And I didn't take very good advice. I just didn't really focus on that. I focused more on marketing through Instagram, but I do really believe that you have to stay ahead of the trend on the marketing platform that is the most famous or big at the time, if you really want to get a lot of new business. So,
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I was at a conference right before the pandemic happened, and Gary Vaynerchuk was speaking, and some of you know Gary, and Gary said on stage that TikTok was the next biggest thing, and at that time everybody was trying to do Facebook and Instagram and etc. And if you're not an early adopter or an early implementer, then you can find yourself behind the time. You're exactly right.
yeah, I love Gary. I actually built my entire social media around his advice, to be honest with you. So
Right.
I listened to his videos like 3 times a day a couple years ago. But I struggled with getting out there. Most people struggle with video, but at this point you have to put yourself out there a little bit. So
Sure. Sure.
yeah.
Okay, any last second questions? Heather, I really, really appreciate it. I think this has been a lot of good content. This is recorded, so we'll make sure that we get it out there. But I appreciate you being on, and those of you that have continued to support this. I look forward to where this is headed in the future.
Awesome. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, and good luck with your new company and
Great.
all of that and what it entails. I know that you've just put a lot more on your plate with running a
Good.
company.
Luckily I have a really great team that helps me in the back end. So, but it's been great. And I think our website that we have kind of explains, if anybody has questions about it, privaterealestate.com, it's very robust in explaining what we're doing. So if you have any
Awesome.
questions, go there.
Awesome. And I did want to take just a quick second to remind everybody that Patrick has a big event tomorrow, and we want to continue to support him. So I appreciate all of you, and I look forward to next week. Thank you.
Bye, guys.